Hello, my name is Richard Tekrawala, and this is my capstone project for leadership development and occupational therapy for University of Montana, with my mentor being Janine Sibla. Now, a little bit about me. I grew up in Connecticut, and my first job as an OT was in 2020, and soon I was tossed into a leadership position of being a lead occupational therapist. And I enjoyed that experience. I made some mistakes, but I learned a lot from it, and I was able to help a lot of people as well. So this is the reason why this topic was chosen for this capstone. Something personal about me: I have two kids, beautiful family, and I'm really passionate about leadership, which is why I am choosing this topic. Now, this class format is going to include four different sessions. They're going to be 30 minutes long, so it's going to be a 2 hour class. And there's going to be a pre-test and there's going to be a post-test. The goal of this program is to really inspire young occupational therapist leaders to think about and understand key concepts of leadership, so that if they're ever in a leadership position where they're managing a lot of people, they can make informed decisions. And as OTs, just even a freshly new grad, we're expected to be leaders. We're expected to have certain set of skills um, that really put us in the light of being a leader. Student expectations from this program, just be curious. Um, Try to learn as much as possible when it comes to leadership and occupational therapy. Now we're going to do the pre-test now, and I will see you afterwards. So this pre-test is just 10 questions. You'll be taking this test, and then you'll also be taking a post-test at the end of the course. This is just to get an idea of how much you know about leadership and occupational therapy. So don't be nervous and do the best that you can. Welcome to the pre-test. What is the most prominent theme that exists in the current literature on leadership and occupational therapy? Is it mentorship, passive leadership, altruism, or friendship? Question number two. The Kava model is described by which of the following elements? River, stones, and fish, river, pebbles, and sand, river, driftwood, and riverbed, or river, rocks, and oxygen? The occupational adaptation model focuses on what? The ability to feel satisfied, creating happiness in others, education to improve personal skills, or the internal process of adaptation. Question number four. What does the term requisite variety mean? A. Having a diverse set of skills for a diverse set of challenges. B. Utilizing leadership theory over everything else. C. Favoring the most efficient therapist. Or D. Pursuing excellence through personal development and research. Question number five. What is one of the key elements to successful leadership? Self-awareness, favoritism, pursuit of perfection, or micromanagement? Question number six. Transformation leaders focus on creating what? Vision, morale, empathy, or employee satisfaction? Which of the following best describes the servant leader? Focus on organizational success, best for conflict resolution, attention to results, authentic empathy to serve others. Which of the following is not one of the five dysfunctions of a team? Absence of trust, lack of commitment, efficient teamwork, or inattention to results? Mitigating and managing conflict in a workplace can be accomplished by what? Confronting the employee, gossip, educating the employee, or self-awareness? Which of the following is not a category in leadership practice LPI? Enabling others to act, modeling the way, encouraging the heart, or treating all employees equally? In case you were curious, these are the answers to the first 5 questions. And you can just pause the video if you want to take a look at them further. And these are the answers for the last 5 questions. And you can also pause the video if you want to look at them further. So why leadership? Leadership supports growth and success in groups, organizations, and professions. Occupational therapists, regardless of their experience, they are expected to be good leaders because this is going to drive our profession forward. It is going to put it in a better place the next day, the next month, and the next year. Despite a growing demand for OT services, understanding the phenomenon of leadership within the profession is limited. A lot of OTs utilize different styles of leadership. This might just be because of life experiences, of the theories that have learned that they gravitated towards when it comes to leadership, and it could also be just a mixture of both. The goals for this program, it is to develop a program to increase awareness on importance of leadership in occupational therapy for novice occupational therapists. It is to educate novice occupational therapists on leadership styles and their practice in a clinical setting. The goal of this program is to empower occupational therapists to pursue more leadership opportunities. Now, when it comes to leadership opportunities, a lot of rehab leadership opportunities are often given to a physical therapist. And I think OTs, we learn way more about leadership in our programs. I think it should be the OTs that should be really leading um, a rehab facility because we have an understanding of not just musculoskeletal injuries, but also the mental health aspect of rehabilitation. So, OTs, we really need to advocate for our profession to ensure that more leaders um, are emerging from this profession within the rehabilitation setting. So these are some of the most common themes that I have found, the most common words utilized in OT literature for leadership and occupational therapy. The words that appear the most often, I have enlarged them, and the words that don't appear that as often, they are smaller than the ones that appear the most. So just something to take a look at. One of the most common one was mentorship, opportunity, vision, volunteering, passion, teaching. So just something to think about kind of where the OT leaders that exist in the current realm of the rehabilitation world and where they're what they are prioritizing and what they are thinking about. Now, based on OT literature on leadership, OTs go into leadership because they have a passion and they want to give back to the profession. Um, they also rate that formal and informal mentorship is very important. Personal experience and past history are an indicator of leadership readiness. They also mention that they utilize styles of leadership like servant, transformational, authentic, and social learning. They also report that communication and listening to ideas of others is very important. There's an emphasis that leadership empowers others and opportunities for leadership. Many OTs will report that they fell into a leadership position and an opportunity was created kind of just for them to be successful in their roles. So I currently work for the US Army, and every Army document has these 4 Ws. And it kind of, really gives you a direction of where this conversation is going to go. So why this program? So assuming a leadership position in the rehab field or in any OT setting can be a daunting task. What is this program? Well, this program was built for educational purposes for novice occupational therapists interested in leadership to enhance understanding of being a leader. Well, this program was created somewhere in the beginning of June and ended at the end of July. But you will have access to it at your own convenience whenever you like. This program can be utilized at the comfort of your own home in your own convenience, as this is a pre-recorded video on YouTube. So many occupational therapists who find themselves in leadership positions, they all mention how they could have benefited from leadership training or leadership workshop prior to them obtaining their leadership positions. Now, being a novice occupational therapist is difficult, right? You're learning, documentation, billing, productivity standards. You're learning a lot of different things. As difficult as that may be, being a novice occupational therapist leader is even more difficult. Now, this program will focus on understanding the challenges that come during this transition from being, just a new grad therapist to being a leader, essentially. And this is to really help novice occupational therapists to learn to rely more on their support systems and utilize the resources available to them and around them at the best of their ability so they can make the best decisions going forward. When it comes to leadership and occupational therapy, I think a really good starting point that all OT leaders should definitely look back on and kind of live by almost are the Occupational Therapy Code of Ethics core values and principles. And these include beneficence, which is acting in the best interest of your client, right? You always want to make sure that they're getting the best and most informed treatment. Ethical advocacy, right? This is you're promoting your client's rights and needs. Fidelity, this is keeping promises and maintaining trust. Prudence, this is making sound and thoughtful decisions. Veracity, one of my favorite ones, being truthful and honest as possible with your clients. Altruism, putting other needs before your own. Non-maleficence, this is avoiding harm. Equity, treating all individuals fairly. Freedom, respecting your client's autonomy. Autonomy is supporting clients' self-determination. Dignity, recognizing and respecting inherent worth. Justice, upholding fairness and objectivity. Freedom, supporting your client's decision to try a new activity, refuse your interventions, or choose their own goals, while ensuring safety and appropriateness. And truth, clearly explaining treatment plans, potential risks, and expected outcomes without like exaggeration or omissions. Now, when it comes to leadership and occupational therapy, other key concepts include ethical decision making. I think this is kind of the foundation. These include the AOTA Code of Ethics principles and core values. So really look back at those and ensure that your leadership journey includes those elements. Advocacy, I think, is probably the most underrated aspect of leadership because there are so many families and clients that you're going to be working with that will not be able to advocate for themselves because of either poor health literacy or just them not being educated enough on the disabilities or their occupational deficits. So extremely important advocacy. Evidence-based practice, it is your kind of our duty to ensure that we are being informed. That is our duty to make sure that we are practicing the latest research interventions and treatments, that we are always doing research to better ourselves as clinicians. Effective team collaborations, these include us kind of working with other professions. OTs will often work with physical therapist assistants, certified occupational therapist assistants, nurses, doctors, PAs. So you're going to be working with a lot of different professions, and it is very, very important that we Um, Learn to collaborate effectively with them to ensure patient outcome is a positive one. Now, there is a lack of consensus when it comes to the current literature on leadership and occupational therapy. Not every OT leader is utilizing just one theory or one concept of leading. Leadership is a very dynamic role, so I can see why the literature is doesn't have a consensus on just one theory that all OTs use. But the most common themes found in current literature on occupational therapy leadership include socialization. This is how you learn the rules, values, and the ways that you interact in a group. Mentorship is huge. This is a trusted relationship when an experienced person helps and guides and teaches someone who is less experienced. So, and this relationship is often reciprocal. So, it's there's an exchange of information that both parties can benefit from. Reflection, this is taking the time to think quietly about your own thoughts, feelings, and actions. Self awareness, this is knowing and understanding your own character, feelings, motives, and desires clearly. And behaviors and opportunities, right? These are just the way that you conduct yourself, especially towards others, and also a set of circumstances that either makes it good or possible to do something to grow from or to succeed. And also development of leadership in others. This is helping other people build the skills, confidence, and vision to lead and guide groups as well. The first model that I really want to introduce you to when it comes to understanding leadership in occupational therapy is the Kava model. I chose this model to represent leadership is because everyone on this entire planet has different lives. We have different ways that we grew up. We have different cultures. There's diversity. We all look different. So it's essential to really look at everything individually. And I think this model does a very good job of that. Now, when it comes to the actual model, it's essentially a river, right? The start of the stream depicts the origins of our lives, and when it connects to a large body of water, like either an ocean or a big lake, this depicts the end of our lives. And the riverbanks are supposed to represent the context and the environment. The rocks are represent our obstacles and our challenges, and the driftwood as our personal factors, right? And the space around the riverbed is an opportunity to enhance our lives flow. We can, move the driftwood, like improve our personal factors, and we can improve the flow of the river. So this is a really good depiction of really individualizing and internalizing um, key concepts of leadership if you want to become the best leader possible. Now, the Kava model has a deep relationship with leadership. Leaders can utilize their ability to self reflect on experiences to make better decisions in the future. Furthermore, the decisions that they have made in the past may be acting like the rocks in the river's flow, impeding it. But through utilization of better judgment by experience, they can clear the rocks and improve their river's flow. Um, Again, I think this is a really good model because every person who is an OT has this leadership journey. You know, as even as new grads, we are expected to lead codas, even though they might have a lot more experience than us. So just utilizing this model, you really need to view like the origins, the successes, struggles of life, failures, small wins, and successes um, to really becoming a great leader in occupational therapy. Many OTs also identify that they kind of fell into the OT position or OT leader position, and for us to really think about this, no one can fall into something if they have no wish or no control over it. So it is safe to assume that the factor of space around the riverbeds mentioned by the Kava model was utilized by these therapists to cultivate their own leadership journey through personal development, commitment, and education. Now, the Kava model really promotes the idea of being lifelong learners, right? To enhance our life's flow or the river's flow. And circumstances in life may change with time, right? Like the river is not going to look the same for the entire, you know, time that it's there. So, utilization of the Kava model in a clinical setting enhances leadership development. If leaders can view their subordinates or their followers in this type of manner, I think I don't think the research has backed that this leads to a more positive and supportive work environment. This enhances the life of an employee's well-being and it leads to organizational success. So for newly graduated therapists, there's a connection between the lives that they have lived and the type of leader that they aspire to become. These past experiences may also shed some light on the leader's problem solving skills, routines, and their ability to lead by example. And if you're able to self reflect, you can actually enhance those problem solving skills, routines, and your ability to lead. Now, I really want to touch on nonverbal communications. Now, as a new occupational therapist, the person that is managing you, you're really going to see them as a person of authority. And this can be tricky because, you know, obviously you're most likely in your probationary period, they could fire you. So you will definitely have some type of, a power dynamic is going to be different than the way that you interact with your other peers. Body language for a leader is extremely important to um, know, and even for their follower. You should definitely look somebody directly into their eyes when they're talking to you or when you're talking to them. Appearance is also extremely important for us. We need to dress accordingly and professionally, and also we cannot come in extremely disorganized or disoriented to work. Charisma is also important when it comes to leadership. You should be able to make just decisions um, in a fair amount of time, and you should be able to lead by example. And then these nonverbal communications are actually going to determine the relationship that you're going to have with your subordinates and your followers. An example I want to give you is that I had to make this video for this project, this capstone project that I'm currently doing. And I asked my manager that, hey, is it okay if I come in on the weekend and just work in the building because I have two kids at home and it would be really unprofessional for me to have kids yelling for this presentation in the background. And my manager didn't say a single word. He just reached in his key fob and just pulled out his key for the building and he just gave it to me. So here I am recording the video on a weekend in the same building. So sometimes those nonverbal communications can go extremely long way. Um, it'll really make you this is to really bring awareness to look out for those because they are really great determinant factors of somebody who's a good leader, somebody who cares about you, and somebody who cares about their organization's success. A great assessment to find out your ability to lead and the type of leader that you are is the Leadership Practice Inventory. This is the LPI. It takes money to take this test, so I'm not expecting everybody to go and take it. But if you are really curious about your personal attributes that contribute to leadership, I highly recommend this assessment. Now, this assessment is going to give you scores in these five categories. The first one is model the way. This is, clarify values and set a personal example as a leader. Inspire a shared vision. This is to envision the future and enlist others within it. Challenging the process or challenge the process. This is searching for opportunities and taking risks. Enabling others to act. This is to foster collaboration and build trust within your team. Encourage the heart. This is to recognize contributions and celebrating values that others bring to the table.